Well, we wanted to spend some time taking our congregations through the last few hours of Jesus's last day. And those last few hours really kick off with what we all know as the Last Supper.
Yeah.
And for many years of my Christian journey, the Last Supper was just the last meal that they ate. It was their Last Supper together.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was a very specific meal that had become the Last Supper until really about a decade ago. I went to my first Passover meal, and it's called a Seder. And the word Seder means order, and that is because for 1,500 years, the nation of Israel annually celebrated their deliverance with a very specific order, a very specific meal with a script associated with it. And it was that Seder, that Passover meal, that Jesus took what was so familiar to the disciples, because they've been doing it their whole lives, and really changed it up and turned it into what is for us as Christians, communion. As a part of the meal, they had an unleavened bread such as this, and there's actually even a line in that Seder script that says, every day we eat bread with yeast or leaven, except today. Why is it today? And then it's discussed that this is a symbol of God's deliverance. It's going to happen quickly. And so Jesus took that bread that they were so used to, meaning deliverance, and then said, this bread actually represents my body, which is going to be broken for you. I mean, imagine what it would have been like for the disciples to say, oh, you're off script.
Right.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And then we have 4 cups of wine here. And as a part of that Passover meal, there are 4 sections to the meal, and each section has a cup of wine, and each cup actually is given a name. And it corresponds to God's miracle coming out of Egypt for the nation of Israel. The first cup would have been drank at the beginning of the meal, and it's called the cup of sanctification. It's because God was saying, I'm setting you apart as my special people. And then the second cup is the cup of the plagues or deliverance, where God is saying, now I'm doing something special with you specifically. I'm delivering you. And the scriptures say it was after the meal that Jesus took the third cup, and that cup is called the cup of redemption. And so when Jesus picked up that cup, there was a specific script that was supposed to happen, but he goes off script and says to his disciples, this cup, redemption, this cup is now in my blood. And I would imagine that they were awfully confused, not understanding the significance of what was taking place. And that highlights my own confusion as a believer, having done communion for some 20 years, not understanding the significance of it all.
Yeah. Right. I love that it's called the Last Supper, because I think that even that symbolizes that this is the last time that this is going to mean this.
Right.
This is the last time that this means something other than me.
Right.
I'm starting a new thing.
Right.
What's past is past. This is the last time.
Right. And I was sitting here when he was talking about all that, and I thought about, these guys, if you're a disciple, you've done this one way your entire life. And now this kind of rogue figure has kind of come in a lot of ways, and he's flipping everything around. And the confusion, maybe the wonder, the awe that they would have had as he's explaining all this now, it would have been an amazing thing to be a part of, and being able to put these pieces together.
Yeah, I would hope that from this point forward, all of our people within our churches understand that this act of communion has its roots in a celebration of deliverance that was in Jesus' day 1,500 years. Now, 3,500 years later, we're still celebrating his deliverance in our life every time we do communion.
That's good. That's right.
So we have in front of us now 7 candles, because we are talking through the timeline, the last days of Jesus's life on earth. And we've got 7 segments that we're going to be talking about, with the beginning of the end being this Passover meal.
Mm.
And I can imagine that it was a pretty weighty meal for Jesus, knowing what was coming next. He's talking about a body broken and blood shed, and while the disciples didn't get it, Jesus did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure it was pretty weighty.
Mm.
And so as part of our celebration of the timeline, it's time for us to remember that a part of his life was coming to a close.
Mm.